radio is typified by a radio station called WEEI. Welcome, everybody watching us live. And WEEI is known for, at times, crass commentary that has not played well in the everybody's always listening and things can kind of blow up and explode. And it has certainly begun to poison some of the well with their corporate partnerships with the Patriots and the Red Sox and stuff.
Oh, gotcha.
So now tomorrow they will be suspending all programming from 6 in the morning to 6 at night to have an all hands sensitivity training.
So when you say suspending all programming, is it going to go off the air?
I think it's probably just going to be best ofs, I would guess. I don't think that they're just going to do like a test pattern or anything, but like,
right. Well, that's what I was wondering.
All live programming will be suspended. So nobody can have an excuse of, I didn't see that at that because I was on the air.
Interesting. Oh, I've heard of WEEI. I've heard the tales told.
Yeah, they were probably most recently in the news because one of the hosts called Tom Brady's kid an annoying little, I don't even know if I want to say the word. It's not bad. It's just
mean. Yeah. He said some not nice things.
Yeah. He was an annoying little blank. And Tom Brady, does like they call like call-in guests. It's like, they do their own show, but really they just call in for 5 minutes or whatever. Tom Brady said he was reevaluating whether or not he wanted to do it. So sensitivity training even hits WEEI.
WEEI.
Just hard to say.
It is. It sounds like some web standard,
It does. Yeah. Instead, it's just where race.
As soon as that standard is approved by the WEEI, we'll be able to implement that in devices.
Facebook's Messenger Kids is meeting all the WEEI standards.
Which is approved by the WEEI. Yeah. Oh, Fred says that the EEI stands for Electric Edison Inc.
Oh.
Interesting. Wonder if that's... Fred thinks it's true. Like incorporated,
I guess.
And slowly
also,
you get swallowed by a wave.
Before I mess up and embarrass myself, we say it PayTM, right?
Yeah. PayTM. PayTM.
PayTM. Mm-hmm.
Peyton Manning.
All right, you guys ready?
Yeah.
Sarah, would you do us the honors of opening the show?
I will. I'll do that.
Thank you. 3, 2.
Daily Tech News Show is powered by you. To find out more, head to dailytechnewsshow.com/support.
This is our daily attempt to help you make sense of the tech news for Thursday, February 15th, 2018. From DTNS headquarters in Los Angeles, I'm Tom Merritt.
And from an undisclosed Airbnb in Manhattan, I'm Sarah Lane.
And from Oakland, California, I'm Justin Robert Young.
From an undisclosed location in the Los Angeles metropolitan area, our producer, Roger Chang, is here.
I'm next to Burbank. Hello.
That's so
I tried to think of something really clever on the fly, and I just didn't have anything, so I made it sound like I was in some secretive location, but it's just
you should have said from New York City.
New York City. I'm in someone else's home, that's for sure.
You sure are. That's the modern world we live in. Let's start with a few tech things you should know.
Intel is opening up its bug bounty program to the public and promising up to $250,000 for new side channel vulnerabilities. General vulnerabilities can now get up to $100,000. Previously, Intel's bug bounty program was invite only.
Make it rain, Intel.
Samsung's updated Notebook 9 laptops will go on sale February 18th. They have Intel's 8th gen processors and up to 16 gigs of RAM, along with a 75-watt hexacell batteries. The 13-inch Notebook 9 pen starts at $1,399. A version without the stylus starts at $1,199, and the 15-inch Notebook 9 starts at $1,299. The budget-level Notebook 7 Spin, ooh, how jaunty, starts at $899.99.
Apparently, they're very nice little laptops. Scientists at Stanford University have developed a wake-up receiver that can power on a device from sleep in response to ultrasonic signals. So the sensor is smaller than one that would need to use radio signals. And the best part is it operates at extremely low power, as little as a nanowatt. System could be used in smart devices and sensors for Internet of Things.
Motherboard reports that FCC Inspector General has opened an investigation into whether FCC Chairman Ajit Pai acted inappropriately in relation to changing media consolidation. Sinclair Media was in the process of acquiring Tribune Media at the time of the rule change. The New York Times reports this investigation is looking at, quote, whether there had been coordination with the company.
All right, let's talk a little more about iOS crashing because you sent it a text message. This story sounds familiar, Justin.
Indeed, it does, Tom. The Verge has confirmed a report that Italy's Mobile World blog that iOS 11 Springboard interface crashes when it receives a particular Indian language Tagalog character. Is that how you say it?
Telugu. Yeah, it's one of the Indian languages.
Messages will no longer be able to open afterwards. The Verge discovers that the same problem happens in other apps like WhatsApp and Gmail and in Messenger for Mac OS as well. The bug does not exist in the upcoming iOS 11.3 update. In the meantime, the only fix is to delete the message with the offending character, either by accessing the service or in some other way having your friends send you more texts.
Well, that's a great workaround.
Yeah, I mean, it's fixed. They're just not going to push out the fix until 11.3. But boy, is it annoying if this happens to you. And it's actually worse than the one that caused your, what was the character that disappeared if you got that text message?
Oh,
because this one locks up your app.
The eye into a question mark and then a weird emoji.
This one will lock up your app. And granted, if it's Gmail, you just go to the web, log into Gmail, delete the message, and you should be fine. Getting it out of iOS Messenger, though, seems like it would be a little more of a trick.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you delete the message, or is the problem that, like, if it's connected to an iCloud account somehow?
If you to delete the message, you have to open the Messenger app, but the Messenger app can't open because it's got the character in it. Right. And if you go to Mac OS,
you have to
crashes
find another
that one.
place. You have to find another place to open up messages, delete that, and then try to reset.
But there is no other place. So basically, with iOS messages, you have to have people send you messages to get it down off the main screen, so that it doesn't show up and doesn't crash the app and then somehow get in there and delete it.
Everybody text me.
Don't.
You see, there's always a DIY solution.
Right.
Just everyone text me. Get it off the screen.
Have more friends.
Moving on, Wirecutter and Pocket Link both have posts up discussing Apple's HomePod leaving a white ring on oil or wax treated wooden furniture, if it's sitting on top of it, in as little as 20 minutes.
20 minutes,
so,
that's all it takes.
Coming on its own after a couple of days, but depending on your surface, that might not be good enough for you. Apple says the marks can be caused by oils diffusing between the silicone base and the table's surface. Tom's Guide notes that the Sonos One can leave a similar ring. Funny, I went, immediately and looked under my Sonos Ones. One is on a glass table, so there's nothing to it. The other one is on a wooden kind of bench, and I don't see any rings. But yeah, I mean, you don't want some big, fancy, expensive speaker hurting your furniture.
So the idea here is that because of the silicon used in it and the fact that it is vibrating to create the rich resonant sound that is filling your house or apartment, that is what's leaving the ring, right? Like, this isn't a decomposing or leaking thing. This is at least Apple's explanation, right?
Apple's saying that if you have oil or waxed treated wood, that's only on that. That's why it doesn't happen at the Apple Store, because they don't have that kind of wood table. If you have an oil or wax treated wood table, that the silicone and the oil will start to kind of diffuse. and some of the silicone will come out. Some of the oil from the silicone will mix, and that will leave the white ring. And then it should just kind of go away by natural erosion, I guess, over the course of a couple of days when you move it. So Apple's mitigation here is don't put it on that table.
You're holding it wrong all over again.
You're setting it on the wrong table.
It's like if I had some, I don't know, like a family heirloom or, some table where it's like, oh my gosh, the speaker is ruining my table. Of course you're going to be upset about it. But this is also like really easy to solve.
Yeah. No, this is only because this is Apple. Is this a thing?
Right. Of course.
And granted, Apple's response is very Apple-y to be like, don't put it there. But that's a pretty good, like you buy things that are made of silicone and you put them on that, anything made of silicone and put it on that table, it's going to market. So you wouldn't do that. You wouldn't normally blame the thing that made the silicone thing.
Right. Apple's diffused oil is not faulty in some way.
Yeah.
Look for Apple HomePod coasters coming to an Apple store near you. So
yeah,
they're so elegant. We think you're really going to love them.
Software engineer Gabriel Lewis noticed he was getting notifications about Facebook posts from friends as text messages to a number he had only ever given to Facebook in order to enable two-factor authentication using text messaging two-factor. So when he replied stop to those messages, it auto-posted the response stop to his Facebook profile, and add insult to injury, didn't stop the messages. Other users have described similar behavior. Facebook told The Verge it is looking into the issue and reminded people like, hey, you don't have to use text messaging. You can also use authenticator apps like Authy or Google Authenticator. But it still isn't clear if Facebook meant this to happen or if it's a bug. They haven't said.
When I saw the screenshots, because he, this whole story had gone viral all over the place because it was so funny. He sort of like, why is, Facebook's like text messaging me? This is horrible. And then you see a screenshot of his wall and it's just like, it's as if he's just gone crazy and it posted like, stop, please stop. Don't text me. As like standalone posts on his profile, like a madman.
Because he doesn't realize they're being posted at that point. That's hilarious.
Yeah. Well, I don't think he did. I mean, he did later on, but I don't really understand what wires got crossed here to auto post anything, even if there was a conversation going on back and forth.
I'm assuming there's a feature on Facebook that allows you to post something in your profile by text message.
Yeah.
And there's a database error that took that number for two-factor authentication and replicated over into that feature set.
Look, there's only two ways this ends. It's user error or it's a bug. And either there's an element of this experiment that we are not aware that makes it more explainable that within Facebook's rules it's posting, or it's an error on Facebook's part and they need to fix it. They need to apologize for it.
It's an error on Facebook's part. That's what I think.
MIT researchers. Oh, what great folks. They've developed a neural network chip that can run 3 to 7 times faster than current chips and reduce power consumption by at least 94%. The chip uses voltage to handle certain values called weights that normally need to be retrieved from memory. This makes the chip far more efficient and could be more practical to run neural networks on consumer devices like phones or even household appliances without it having to ping a server, right, Tom?
Yeah, so that's the real thing here that you need to understand is, hey, instead of Siri having to connect to the cloud, or instead of Amazon saying, well, we can't really customize the words because, it all has to happen in the cloud. You can't keep things on the devices. You could have it all happening on the device. It would be more secure. You would feel less weird about like all the stuff I'm saying is being transmitted somewhere to a server. It could stay on the device. That would be better. But I have hubris, Justin and Sarah.
Really?
And I think I can try to explain why this works. And I'm going to do this.
Accepted, Tom.
I'm going to do this just so people who understand neural networks have an opportunity to email us and tell me where I get it wrong. But if I understand this right, the way the neural network works is a bunch of nodes send data into a node, and then the node takes a weighting amount and adds it to each piece of data based on how important it is. And then it sends that data with the weight added or multiplied up to the next series of nodes, maybe 16 different nodes, right? And so each time it calculates that, it has to go get the weight, has to calculate it, store it, and then send it. Then it moves on to the next one. What these MIT guys did is said, well, first of all, let's just have two weighting numbers, 1 and -1. That'll simplify things. Turns out it only makes it 1 to 2% less accurate. So it's virtually the same. Then they said, let's use the voltage to hold the weight number so that we can actually just add all the voltage to figure out the weight. And we can send all 16 of these at once instead of having to go one by one by one by one as it sends it from one node to the other, thus speeding up the performance.
It almost sounds like you're talking about like how torrenting was described to me at the beginning.
Well, it's actually how the brain works. They're trying to get this as close to how neurons work.
Yeah. Well, here's all I know. If it gets us closer to a device version of the greatest neural network on the internet, the Would You Rather bot, WYR_bot on Twitter, if I could just have a button that every 3 hours gave me hilarious Would You Rathers, and this is getting us closer to that, then kings to you, MIT researchers, in bringing the future closer to us.
I have a feeling it would be able to make that happen in your pocket.
How about sew it into my clothes?
Yeah.
If I could only have that delighting me at all times, I would be thrilled.
Excellent.
Any word on I don't know. I mean, what's the next step for the research team here?
Yeah, they just got to make it practical. Make it work outside the lab.
All right, just do that, MIT researchers, and then we'll buy them.
Nailed it.
Indian payment service Paytm has a physical retail store version of its Paytm mail shopping site in New Delhi, co-branded with Red Tape Shoes. Shoppers can pay in store with the Paytm mail app, and if an item is out of stock, it's same-day delivery. Stores can also handle returns of items stored online. Paytm Mail expects to add the feature to 50 Red Tap Shoe stores and open 400 such stores centered around consumer goods and fashion within the next year.
It's Paytm Mall. Like a mall, like a shopping mall, not mail.
Oh, sorry. I called it mail twice.
Paytm that's okay. I just want to make sure that people know that. But it's really an interesting indication that all of these online stores, and they're actually stealing this playbook from Alibaba. Alibaba's been doing this in China, partnering up with retail locations, are saying, you know what's really the next big step in online shopping? Shopping in person.
Well, I mean, but this was kind of always destined to happen. And I don't know if the real estate situation in India is similar to how it is here in America, but as businesses and business models revolving are only around physical retail and higher traffic and price real estate kind of crumble, it makes sense as these gigantic e-retailers say, well, okay, how can we open up new ways to sell things to customers, that they find smart ways to do it, and probably with a smaller footprint and probably with without the same kind of expansion strategy. But this is where we're going. You can't, we're not just going to demolish these strip malls and malls and buildings. Like, we're going to find different ways to use them.
I love this idea. I'm also one of these weird people who I really want to physically buy something and have that sort of impulse purchase rush of, walking on.
Yeah, just walking out of the store with it, for sure.
Yeah. It's like Amazon's great because you get things shipped to you, but it's also, everything's there somewhere. Somewhere Amazon, is selling something that I want. Some of that stuff I don't need to look at or touch or try on. But some of it I do. And, if there was, I've got like a credit at Amazon. It's been sitting there for years. And I keep wanting to buy like a little kitchen island or, something that Amazon has. And it's like, I just can't tell if it's janky, with a couple little photos. So this whole idea, and I mean, look at Apple stores. It's like physical stores have their place.
Yeah, for sure. And I love this idea of them saying, oh, you want that in red? We don't have that in stock, or we don't have your size, but we can get it to you by the end of the day because we are hooked up to this big Paytm mall back end. Hey, folks, if you want to get all the tech headlines each day in about 5 minutes, subscribe to Daily Tech Headlines at dailytechheadlines.com. You can also get it as an Amazon Echo flash briefing on the Google Home, on the Anchor app, and as a podcast, like I said, at dailytechheadlines.com. So Twitter said that what a lot of people thought was maybe a special event, not event, but a specialized instance of partnering with a local television broadcast is actually something they want to do on a regular basis. The feature was tested during coverage of the school shooting in Florida here in the US on Wednesday. What Twitter did was put up a live stream from the local television station alongside your Twitter stream. And if you clicked through to it, you actually could get, in some cases, a page with relevant tweets that were going along with what you were seeing from the live coverage. GM Kayvon Bakepour, former CEO of Periscope, by the way, now GM at Twitter, said, "We're continuing to work on new ways we can surface credible content and relevant information to help people stay informed. By pairing live video with the conversation on Twitter, there's no faster way to see what's happening in the world."
And I think that they are absolutely right here. This is how I watched the vast majority of what unfolded yesterday. It was of tremendous interest to me, as it is from where I am from. I have family and friends that were involved, some taught at the school, and it was something that I wanted to keep a lot of keep in touch with. I didn't realize that this was because Channel 7, which is the Fox affiliate based out of Miami, had made a deal. I thought it was just WSVN using Periscope as a platform to pump out their signal. It makes sense that they did that. Where I get a little twingy is the idea that they want to not just have this be the right information at the right time and getting a local source into your face as fast as possible, but rather to have a landing page where you're curating tweets algorithmically. Because, man, as a Twitter user and as somebody who has covered a tragedy before professionally, there is just so much misinformation that can very often lead to more harm than good in the midst of something that is unfolding. And it's something that even watching WSVN on Twitter yesterday, they had to make sure that they kept on the right side of it. When you're putting live mics in frightened, traumatized parents and children's faces, and you're also trying to walk the journalistic line of like, okay, we can't share the name of the prime suspect yet until it's officially mentioned by police, but people in this parking lot in Walmart are saying their name, because they're traumatized and they don't know what the rules of journalism ethics are. Then that's one thing. The idea that now you are going to algorithmically keep every little piece of misinformation that might come across that feed is a tremendous problem to solve. Not to say that they can't. I don't think this is quite #hellportal, #portal to hell, but I do think that this is a problem that is very difficult, and I would have real questions on whether or not that's worth solving compared to let's just get people who understand these situations in the face of people as fast as possible.
Yeah, there's something about, it's interesting that Kayvon Bakepour had the quote to BuzzFeed because, as you mentioned, Tom, he's a Periscope guy. And I was thinking about Periscope the other day, like, is anybody Periscoping anymore? And I know that they are, but there was so much, the implication when that and similar tools like Meerkat rolled out was like, oh, everything's just going to be live. Now it's just a matter of like organizing all of this information we have. And I don't think Twitter really totally understands what to do with that yet. What you're describing, Justin, I think seems to me is Twitter saying, okay, we've got these tools. Like, how do we actually just like bundle them into the Twitter experience better? But by organizing it, it's so intentionally, I think that it's going to be so much easier for someone to be like, how can you, be spreading this bad information the way that you're doing so purposely?
Well, yeah. I mean, the idea is, I think what Twitter's trying to say is we're going to have a live video stream of what's actually happening from a responsible journalistic agency so that if somebody's saying something in the Twitter stream, it will be easy to see that they're making it up or they're wrong. There's a lot of things going on here. One is people have decided that Twitter is easily gamed. It certainly is gameable. I don't know how easy it is to game, but that's one concern. Another concern is the word algorithm used to mean like this is a pretty agnostic way of choosing things, and it's better at choosing things because it doesn't have bias. That's not what people mean when they say algorithm anymore. Algorithm has suddenly taken on this meaning of a biased, faulty thing that can be manipulated by nefarious sources, right? And so as soon as Twitter says, well, we'll use an algorithm to put up the tweets so it's only relevant tweets, people jump to the conclusion like, oh, so it'll be gamed and full of misinformation. That's not necessarily true, but that is also a concern for people now. So if Twitter exists, and you can have a problem with that, but you don't have more of a problem with it today than you did yesterday. Television news exists. You don't have a problem with that any more than you did yesterday. Putting them together isn't necessarily going to make the problem worse, I don't think.
No, it just is very high risk. And there are few places in our modern world where you are more exposed to have harmful information go out at the exact wrong time.
You're saying it's the multiplier effect, right? Let's talk about Boston Marathon. Boston Marathon, incorrect people were identified on Reddit, and that became a problem. They were not identified in most cases on TV, but that was a separate situation. And in one case, CNN did show some misinformation that it had to retract later. You're saying if you bring those two together on one page, that makes the problem worse.
This is not specifically a Twitter problem.
Yeah.
This is a problem with covering unfolding tragedies. When witnesses are simultaneously at their most accurate and at their least accurate, that they've seen the thing that you need to talk to them about, and yet they are traumatized and might not remember everything exactly how it happened until you talk to enough people and law enforcement corroborates it. I have long said on this show that I believe that part of Twitter's destiny is in video and is in the idea that all these things, trending topics, are so often video products. It is mind-blowing to me that we don't have a simple way that I can pay Twitter to just click through and watch these things with the people that I am already talking about them with on this platform. And I think that this is a way of getting to that, granted in an emergency situation. So this isn't like the business model per se, but also, man, I just know how white knuckle it is for any journalist, for law enforcement to get these things right in the moment, to have the second level filter on that, get it right, and be broadcasted on the stage that Twitter is. Whew. It just seems like something that will go. It's not if, it's when, and it won't be because they invented it. It will be because they broadcasted it.
All right. Well, thanks to everybody who participates in our subreddit and does a great job. You can submit stories and vote on them at dailytechnewsshow.reddit.com. And of course, our Facebook group, facebook.com/group/dailytechnewsshow. Examples of people doing it right, I like to think. Also, we get a lot of emails, Sarah.
We do. And we got a couple from Ross, who's writing from Nottingham in the UK. First one was in reference to Scott, our show yesterday. Scott was saying, I love, the password authenticators, but then I'm worried if I lose my phone, then I'm screwed out of all of my accounts. Ross says, Scott shouldn't be worried about losing his phone because he can set up LastPass Authenticator. This backs up the TFA token store to your LastPass account. So if you lose your phone, you just restore your backup. Also, a lot of TFAs that I've
set up recently
Forgive as can be used in the same purpose. Just keep these on paper at home or in an offline KeyPass file.
Yeah. Okay. So Authy does this too. A lot of people don't want them to have your token. Maybe you trust Authy or LastPass just fine. I mean, if you're using LastPass, you trust them with all your passwords. But having that TFA token stored somewhere else reduces its security. So a lot of people aren't comfortable with that. However, yeah, keeping them offline in a KeyPass file or on paper, that is a great mitigation factor to this. And that definitely is something that I think everybody can feel safe about. Ross also said regarding Chrome's new ad blocking, it's not the irritation of ads that drives him to use an ad blocker anymore. He says, while this used to be the case, I now use one to stop me being tracked. I don't want Google or any other advertising company to know anything about me. I don't want a personalized ad experience. You can target me based on location. That's it. As soon as ads stop tracking me, I'll turn off my ad blocker. Until then, it stays. If that is in fact the case, you should use Privacy Badger. Privacy Badger is not an ad blocker. It will have the effect of blocking ads sometimes because it blocks tracking. It specifically only blocks tracking across websites. So if it notices that an entity is tracking you on multiple sites, it blocks it and allows you to give permission to be tracked if you so desire. And in the end, sometimes that will block ads, but it won't block ads if they're not doing that or if you give permission to them. So that's what I'd say to Ross is like, great, you should switch to Privacy Badger because it does only what you want it to do.
Yeah.
Oh, the ad blocker, the old ad blocker. The thing I love the most is that certain news publications will just be like, you have an ad blocker on, you can't read this, turn it off or beat it. Well, and then there's the other ones who are like, we've noticed you're using an ad blocker. And I'm like, shut the window. And then I just continue on. So it's like, there are different ways to be passive aggressive on the publisher side of this.
That's why I get angry when
speaking of not being passive aggressive, the first person that comes to mind is Justin Robert Young, because you say what you mean and you mean what you say. What's going on?
I'm just aggressive. Well, I'll tell you what, folks, I'm going to aggressively push my live show on March 1st. If you are in the San Francisco Bay Area, then come on out Thursday, March 1st, 7 p.m. at the Piano Fight Theater, the lovely, illustrious Piano Fight Theater. We are doing the American Sex Scandals Bracket. Some of the most crazy, over-the-top, ridiculous sex scandals of all time we're going to put into a bracket, and we will all decide who will be number one. Real talk, DTNS listeners, because I feel I can be honest with you. The initial ticket sales on this have been really good, and we have a couple weeks until the show. So much so that the venue wants to move us into a bigger room, and I'm hesitant to do it unless we kind of hit a certain benchmark. We're very close, but if you are interested in going and you are thinking, maybe it'll be a game time decision a little bit closer to March 1st. We're not even halfway through February, Justin. Get off my tail. Do me a favor. Try to figure it out. If you can buy a ticket, please do, because it would help me a lot in figuring out whether or not we're going to move this to a bigger place. If you want a quicker way to find it, just go to bit.ly/SF Sex Show. I can't believe that I got that bit.ly. bit.ly/SF Sex Show. You can't forget it. It's the Politics live show on March 1st.
Thanks to everybody who supports this show. We just need one more patron than we had last month, and that could be you. If you sign up for $1, you get a whole new RSS feed with lots of extra stuff in it. You sign up for $5, you get my hot takes in your inbox every week. There's all kinds of cool perks. Check them out, patreon.com/DTNS. And we've got new t-shirts. And I know some of you have bought them. Send us pictures of you in that new beautiful blue DTNS t-shirt, or perhaps a tiny mantis shirt with Len Peralta's art of a praying mantis wearing 3D glasses. You never knew you needed that t-shirt, but now you can buy it at dailytechnewsshow.com/store.
Our email address is feedback@dailytechnewsshow.com. We're live Monday through Friday at 4:30 p.m. Eastern, 21:30 UTC. Find out more at dailytechnewsshow.com/live.
Sarah is off tomorrow, but we'll be back with Allison Sheridan and Len Peralta. Talk to you then.
This show is part of the Frog Pants Network. Get more at frogpants.com.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.
Good show.
Good show.
Good show, old chap.
Good show,
Nice
patrons.
Good shoes. Good shoes.
Roger, what is the perfect title for this episode?
The perfect title for this episode.
And the perfect title for this episode
In the meantime, hey Justin.
Yo.
What does it mean that this is just an article on TechCrunch I'm reading right now? What does it mean that Twitch has launched always on chat rooms for channels?
I mean, you can chat when it's not broadcasting.
Yes.
Okay. I didn't realize that chat was off unless it was live.
It isn't. I think it might be. Okay. No. This is what I think it is.
While we wait for him to answer that question, Rod.
Periscope into live events. No.
Periscope into.
It's not really Periscope.
Like Periscope up.
Twitter live news in the midst of the misinformation age. No waiting at MIT. Pie face drama. This is huge. My phone. No. This is your mom lake ball.
Oh, it's a horrible headline, Sarah. Starting now, Twitch channel owners have the option to create rooms for a specific group of users, like their channel subscribers, moderators, followers, or others with shared interests, like spoilers.
So it's like us chatting in Slack.
Effectively, they are creating web versions of what has kind of been a culture that's been created on Discord and Slack. But there already are kind of these threaded specific sort of rooms. This is a web way of making that.
I see.
I would also not be shocked if they, and this is a guess, I do not know anything about this. I would not be shocked if they then wanted to fold that into their Twitch app, which has taken a lot of the functionality of Discord from the Curse acquisition that they made.
Always on should not be in that headline.
Yeah, that sounded completely different than what it is.
Apple has character issues, but don't we all?
That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
I kind of just like Apple's character issues.
You're tabling it wrong.
Or perhaps character flaw? That might be.
Oh, because Flaw, because of iOS, Flaw.
Got it.
Flaw.
Pay now or Paytm later.
I don't know.
All right.
Well, you don't really Paytm later.
Yeah, you just pay DM. You pay DM is it's just
Pay
the way to pay. Like,
and
it's
maybe
like-
What about if we just did a variation on Fred's title and the Apple has character flaws, but don't we all?
yeah, I like that.
Perfect. See what kind of magic we can create when we put our heads together?
But still,
Oh,
like
you know,
pie, apple pie.
Speaking of heads, I realized I didn't put my headphones on, but nobody complained about echo either.
No. There wasn't an echo problem. You got a few of those old tech hiccups.
Yeah, my bandwidth
old
is
black
way down
magic.
too, which is funny too, because it's like tested everything, even pre-show was like felt everything seemed great, and then it all starts to come crashing down on me, guys. Stupid Hangouts,
Stupid internet.
stupid tech. God, so sick of it. No, you know what I am not sick of though. I wish I could give you guys a tour. I guess I kind of could, but they have actually no, because there's like family photography in here, but really,
But they left their photos in there. That's kind of weird.
well, you know what it is. So there were two of us were on one flight, and then two others were on a separate one, and they beat us here. So I actually didn't meet the host. My friends did, because they actually got in earlier than we did. And I guess he told them, yeah, this is my family's home, and kid. It's like a 4-bed, like it's a big. Well, I mean, for New York, it's quite large, and it's just too much house for us, and so it's just like this is how we kind of like pay the bills and get some money. But I think at one point it was the family home, so yeah, there's like wedding photos and some baby photos. Like I don't know who any of those people are, but I don't think that it's like stock photography. I think it's actually the family.
Well, that's what I was wondering though. Is it the family, or is it stuff they bought at the antique shop?
No.
I've been to those places in Greenwich Village where they're selling people's family photos. You could absolutely buy and put up, and
I mean, I'm sure that's possible, but no, it doesn't seem like that. It seems like them or somebody.
you didn't meet them. How do you know?
No, but I don't know, Tom. I don't know. Like, I have my theories, but I don't know.
That's
I have no idea.
All right,
But, if it is people, I'm not going to give you guys a tour. But they do. My point was, and I do have one, is that, well, okay, you know what? Here, I'll show you. No, see, well, I don't want to. So up here, you can't really see it because I turned my bandwidth way down. Are they
consistent from, like, you see the same people in multiple photos and stuff? Because that would be the tell that it's real.
There's a Dominican Republic map over here, and you see a lot of that going. Like, and then you see the flags and some of the family photos. It's like, it would be really be going the extra mile.
An interior designer could pull it off, I suppose. But
is that brick an actual brick thing, or is that a facade?
It is. Well,
it's like actual.
No, it's real.
Oh, okay.
It's real.
There was a period in time when brick facade was as popular as wood veneer.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Ooh, I don't know why.
Oh, yeah. My childhood home had both. We had paneling up on the walls, and we had a fireplace that was cement, but they had put brick facade on it to make it look like it was brick.
Yeah, it's just it's a very eclectic mix of things.
Of architectural decades.
I love Airbnb so much because you never really know what you're gonna get.
Remember, there was a period of time where having like a sunken like floor in your like living room or something was kind of cool. You would have a room, and you would have to like take a step down into this
growing up, we had a sunken living room in the house I spent most of my childhood growing up in.
I envied the people with a sunken living room.
Why?
It's funny how like
it felt modern back then.
Doesn't get built anymore.
That felt like a new fancy thing that rich people had. Ooh, sunken living room.
And it's also like, I mean, it was a style. It's a style and kind of certain period of time. But it's like, why? Why was that ever a thing? And like, why was it cool?
Like, are you trying to replicate a fire pit in your house? It's just kind of.
I think it gave you the impression of having more space, right? Oh, like you have to walk down to get it.
But like the thing is, once you start putting furniture in it, you realize how little space you actually have.
No, even with furniture, it gives that impression like, oh, I'm walking down. There's more room than there really is.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about the sunken living room. And the fact that we had one. There was very bad carpet in that house. Like maybe the worst carpet ever. It's like truly the worst. It's sort of like orange and brown shag. And there was a lot of it. And the sunken living room was part of it. But so was like the hallway around. So it was just like, there was this whole, like, it was like some like crazy Sesame Street monster, like all over the floor, and then also the sunken living room, and the cats would, anyway.
When we were moving right before I went to high school, my mom was looking. She wound up buying the place that she's still in now, and we looked at a house in Cooper City that had the conversation pit. You ever seen like these like disappeared in the 70s?
Okay.
But just like there's the living room, and then off the corner of it, there's a further sunken down area that's just kind of couches. Like it's just a ring of couch. And the idea was you would just kind of retire to the conversation pit in the 70s
with your hookah pipes.
And just hang out. And for whatever reason, I've always like wished that there's another or wanted to be in the alternate reality where we grew up with a conversation pit.
That's a great podcast name. The Conversation
Pit. Conversation Pit. There's got to be another name for it.
Yeah, I mean, is that what you're calling it, or is that what a real estate
conversation pit? This is a real thing.
Okay, all right. I've never heard of it before.
Yeah,
conversation pit. It just sounds like where all the debased, just what happens when a conversation turns into an argument, gets ugly, it just falls into a pit.
It falls into that conversation pit, and you just can't get out.
Apparently, it was popularized by the Dick Van Dyke Show.
Oh,
Ah.
We used to have not my greater family, bigger family had like a house in Tahoe that that everybody would use and share and go up there, and really cool house, but like dated. It was an old house, and in the middle of the living room, like the main room, like the big room, it was the fireplace, but it was literally in the middle of the room.
Oh, was it one of those
like
metal
circular.
ones? Yeah.
So
Oh, you know what used to have those was Burger. No, A&W. They used to have
A&W. Yes,
they
it
used
was
to have that fire
exactly
pit in the
like
middle.
that. And I, it was always like, well, the fire was on a lot because if you're up there in the winter, it's cold. But it was always like kind of in the way of everything, and like depending on where somebody is, you have to like yell at them around the fire. And it always, even as a kid, I was like, it's just there's, I don't know why they did this.
So
that's the kind of thing that looks good in a magazine, right? In Life magazine, that looked awesome.
Yeah.
Nick with the C sent a JPEG to the chat room.
Yes. So imagine that, right? But not as the center of the living room.
Off
It
to
was
the
a
side.
Smaller version off to the side.
Interesting.
So
It just feels like you're in a
included.
boat on land,
So why can't you have a conversation in like the normal
like
room?
3 feet
Oh,
up.
what are you, a Philistine? One doesn't just have a conversation anywhere.
You must retire to the conversation pit.
We are civilized people, after all.
It's very in a way, it's very like like Socrates or Plato. I could just imagine if we'll continue our discourse a few feet lower.
No, that's the discourse ditch.
Oh.
It's outside. Totally different thing. Oh man. My parents carpeted our kitchen.
Oh, really? That
Never-
seems like a mistake.
Yeah, never could figure that one out. Never figured that because we had tile through till I was like, I don't know, 8 or 9 years old. Then they put carpet down in the kitchen.
I remember we lived in a house with carpet in the bathroom.
Yeah.
It's the last time. That was gross.
One of my jobs after we ate was to take the little roller thing out and roll it over the carpet to pick up all the crumbs. I don't even know what that thing was called. It wasn't a vacuum cleaner because it didn't have any power. It just
And it's a chore. It was called a chore.
the device was called a chore. What is
There's
that
a
thing?
whole-
Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
mechanical
they're called
things with little
Yeah, they're
brushes in
called
them.
carpet rollers.
Carpet roller. Yeah, that makes sense.
I used to see them a lot in the Amway catalog that one of my mom's customers used to bring around the restaurant every month. Amway's got some new stuff. You should check it out. Well, that one's not too bad. Greg, Geeky Tex sent one. This one's a little classier, I think.
Ooh.
See, it has-
Oh, this is both Conversation Pit and Central Fireplace.
And central fireplace.
2 in 1.
Looks like a hotel lobby, though.
Off to the side.
It really does. Is it a hotel lobby? You actually have me wondering now because there's tile around it.
Now I'm gonna have to be like I'm gonna be up on real estate sites trying to find that house in Cooper City.
Well, while you do that, any last words to our YouTube viewers?
I would like to say to them, be yourselves. Be kind.
I'll tell you what, the more I look at these conversation pits, I think that they might have very specific purposes.
Yeah. Conversation.
That might
okay.
be, that might be why my mom decided to not get that house.
My impression from the moment you described it was that conversation was not, in fact, the main purpose of these pits.
Yes.
Just
Yeah.
knowing
I mean,
the
it's
time
called
that they were popular.
The harness hooks at the ceiling probably were the dead.
All right.
All right. Let's way to go,
guys.
Roger. You're the producer. You're supposed to be the responsible one here.
I know. I didn't even mention the glass table.